everybody, and welcome to Wake Up Missoula. I'm your host, Scott Ramf. I'm here to usher you in and tell you about the things that are going on in and around the city of Missoula. I got a lot of stuff to talk about. I got a brand new Dublin stuff, got some new pre-critic, a lot of events. There's a lot of events, especially for Friday night. If you guys are planning on going out, seeing some music, seeing some shows, a lot of different things. Zootown Arts Community Center is doing a great performance this weekend as well that you guys should check out. I'll get more into that a little bit later. But before we talk about planet Earth and all our problems and possible solutions, NASA released data on their successful DART program when hitting the smaller of the two comets last month. About 7 million miles away from Earth, asteroid Dimorphos is in orbit around a larger asteroid called Didymos. It usually takes about 11 hours and 55 minutes to do a full rotation because it's in the orbit of the bigger asteroid. And one of the big things that the people in NASA wanted to figure out is if you hit a rock, can you change its course? In which they were able to reduce its orbit time by 32 minutes, confirmed. So the two asteroids pose no threat to Earth. They wanted to make that clear, but they just wanted to test it for a proof of concept that if another asteroid does appear headed toward Earth direction, scientists have a way of pushing it off course officially. This would allow for small alterations to large asteroids that could threaten Earth in this future, especially if they threw their metaphoric golf cart at a pyramid. So essentially, that's kind of what they said, is that they relied on kinetic energy of the small satellite to put it off course, and they were hoping for maybe 5-10 minutes, but they were able to get the 32-minute differential. So yeah, that's very interesting. A lot of good news on that, and you know, it's kinetic energy may influence the future of planetary defense, and the longer they have to shoot rocks headed our way, even the slightest bump could knock it off course entirely. So. All right, so one of the things that are happening as well is that the threat of nuclear war is getting further and further. I'm getting closer and closer. Sorry, I got to rephrase that because in many ways, Russia has retaliated against the counteroffensive that Ukraine pulled last week, in which Ukraine blew up the Crimean Bridge, which, according to Russia is their sovereign states, sovereign country, and so it was a direct attack on their sovereign soil. That's the propaganda, and that's the justification there when they decided to rain missiles on many key components in Ukraine, which is like the power grid, communications, just key locations, created nationwide blackouts. This was an already retaliation for the bombing of the Crimean Bridge that occurred as the cherry on top for the Ukrainian counteroffensive that has seen Russian troops turning tail and running. In terms of long-range missiles, reports from Channel 4 have calculated that one of their cruise missiles that hit the capital cost $6 million for just that one missile, and so the bombardment is estimating costing $400 million for just that weekend. So Ukrainian officials have claimed that they're able to repel nearly 50% of the missiles from anti-missile tech. The UN's G7 now claims that the attacks were possible war crimes. We now have speculation that Russia is running low on their war chest and have been in talks to buy drones from Iran, which Iran itself is dealing with a lot of upheaval over the death of 22-year-old Masha Amani, who was pulled over for not wearing her hijab properly, the headscarf, and the government-sanctioned morality police took her away and with very little information let her family know that she had died in police custody. And of course, when they saw a body, they noticed bruise marks, and they claimed that she was beaten. And as soon as word spread, a lot of people were up in arms, especially women in Iran, even though the government claims that this was a heart attack and seizure for this 22-year-old. So the brother, who was also, along with other detainees, heard him being insulted by the morality police, and Amani's brother noticed bruises on her head and legs. The women who were detained with Amani said that she has been severely beaten for resisting the insults and curses of the officers who have arrested her. This was a clear sign of overreach and cover-up that not only got droves of young people, but some of those who were in the hijab law thinking that the government went too far. So in many ways, even the hardcore conservatives thought that the government went too far. The results have tipped in protests growing more and more, to the point where even a 16-year-old was beaten by batons for protesting, and officials claim she fell off a 5-story roof. Serena Esmeralda Zaide, sorry, I'm going to mispronounce that, was killed by security forces when she was struck in the head with batons. This is Reuters reported this. The story took a sidestep when her mother claimed her daughter was suicidal, but the timing and other related stories continue to fuel the protests. Another segue into oil workers have also joined these protests in Iran, which could affect gas prices. So, gas prices, they're above $4 in the city of Missoula. I saw it was $4.19 in some places. And Saudi Arabia is at the center of a lot of the conflict, in which they worked with OPEC, which is the organization that works with foreign oil and does all this stuff. So they claimed that they had to discontinue producing 20 million barrels a day. And President Joe Biden, who has bent the knee on many occasions, have been looking to reevaluate the relationship with Saudi Arabia, which has gotten in bed with Russia. Although not militarily, the sales of oil have further fueled the Russian war machine, and the only thing the U.S. can do is restrict or outright ban sales of military equipment to the Saudi government. All of this while the U.S. is trying to improve ties with Venezuela. So a big thing that, which since 2014, the country of Venezuela has been technically destabilized, and as of 2020, there were no rigs searching for oil in that entire country. So recent news of Venezuela has recent discount for their crude oil, which is a lot more of a hassle to process than your typical Saudi oil. But through all these issues in the Middle East, America might see a better future with Venezuela. The Biden administration is weighing on a ban on fuel exports to domestic inventories and keep consumer prices down, but the largest U.S. oil groups are not on board. They argue a ban would decrease inventory levels, reduce domestic refining capability, and put upward pressure of consumer fuel prices and alienate U.S. allies during the time of war. So in more recent news, this morning we have confirmed that the January 6th hearing has called a subpoena for Donald J. Trump to be subpoenaed in their January 6th hearing. So that's kind of the recent news that's happening as well. October is also, this is around the same time they're going to be sending out mail-in ballots. So if you haven't gotten your mail-in ballots in Missoula or even in other communities around town, you can check out your Missoula voter page or other voter pages that you have in your communities as well. The Missoula County Elections Office have said that they sent out ballots in the mail, so you guys can check the mail to see if you've gotten it. If you haven't gotten it, you just got to check your voter registration, as well as potentially going over to the Russell Street address, which had a little bit of gridlock the other day when people were either turning in or asking some questions at the elections office. So you don't only have to drop off your ballot at their location on the intersection of Wyoming and Russell, but you can also check out the Missoula County Courthouse. And I believe that the library, at some point, don't take my word for it, but I do remember that they do have a drop-off ballot box at the library at a certain time. I just don't know if they've officially started it. I'll get that confirmed and I'll let you guys know next week. So Monday was a big thing that was happening here in the city of Missoula. It was Indigenous Peoples Day in the federal holiday known as Columbus Day, but in Missoula we've recoined the holiday as a way for people to kind of show support for the Native Americans, the Salish Kootenai tribes, who were basically kicked out of the city of Missoula back in 1891. And part of this Indigenous Peoples Day was a dedication to the Higgins Bear Track Bridge, which had a dedication ceremonies, and they did a parade across the Higgins Bridge to Karis Park in which they had a powwow. And so without further ado, here is the dedication video in which MCAT flew the drone around there. And just a warning, the technical, the card that actually recorded the drone was a little bit slower than it should have been, and so just bear with me, and you guys get a nice view of the city of Missoula that happened on Monday. So without further ado, here's this, and when I come back, we're going to talk about some movies that are coming out this weekend. Hey guys, welcome back. Let's talk about some movies that are coming out now. It is time for Pre-Critic, where I prejudge a movie based on absolutely nothing but maybe the poster and the trailer. Jumping right in. Ooh, not that one. This one. All right, Halloween Ends. Finally, this will be the last of the final Halloween series that follows the reboot trope of uprooting the original title and reusing it. Watch a movie that was supposed to be a two-parter, added, Rat Pack and Mad TV alum in the second one to make a room for yet another time jumping featuring Jamie Lee Curtis's character fight her not brother in the slasher looking to kill all actors who have ever been in a Halloween movie, just to kill them off in these movies. So I assume she kills the killer while sacrificing herself, even though she kind of did that with The Curse of Michael Myers, which is, here's hoping Paul Rudd makes a cameo in Halloween Ends, which I really doubt. Then we got another movie called Decision to Leave. This is a Korean film, so this movie will probably make you decide to leave in this foreign film from Korea. I don't know why autocorrect has even made the grammar worse. So the pop music. So anyways, this is a foreign film from Korea. It's South Korea. This movie follows the detective who, oh God, I'm having a rough morning, jeez. Is a detective who finds love in the worst place, forcing him to make an ethical decision. When you have a femme fatale trope, you run into the wife who did it. But also, crime is deeply rooted in society, and she gets hers, but it's Seoul's Koreatown up in here. God, that was rough. Anyways, this next one, The Loneliest Boy in the World. Theme, friendship with zombies. Enjoy a series of almost getting caught with zombie friends in this comedy about a young, lonely boy and his approach to a found family trope movie that forces people to look at their own biases and learn to accept the lovable weirdos. Anyways, we get a series of bodies decomposing while he gaslights these newly animated corpses into liking him. It kind of feels like that movie Dead Alive, where he was trying to cover up the fact that his, people were dead. He was trying to contain the situation, which, oof. Moving on, The Inspection. Gay Marine is not accepted by society because became accepted through struggles and gender norms and finding a place where he belongs because his traditional mama kicked him out for being gay. Anyways, watch a drama about being a gay man in a don't ask, don't tell kind of world. Enjoy a series of Get Your Hands Off Me and They Are My Brothers in Arms. That's all that matters. There you go. Then we got The Whale. Basically, everyone's already liking this movie because, hey, Brendan Fraser deserves a comeback. And, reminding you that he was from the original Mummy movies. This is a typical Oscar bait film about a reclusive guy played by Brendan Fraser looking to reconnect with his daughter. Hey, it's pure Oscar bait right there. It's just like old man filled with regret, trying to reconnect with loved ones. Kind of like The Wrestler and various other midlife crisis man movies. Hey, I love Brendan is back, but this movie will most likely be a movie you can roll your eyes to. All right, moving on. We got a brand new dub and stuff for you guys, featuring the film The Phantom Ship with Bela Lugosi. So here's this, and when I come back, we're going to talk about a thick city council meeting with some good news, but also some sad news as we transition into the emergency winter shelters.
Oh, isn't it nice that we're all just better people?
Awesome.
Dun, dun, dun. We got some complaints from the HR.
HR, that's human
I
resource.
have a whole list right here.
No, well, I did say thank you that one time. No, I didn't touch her there. Interesting. Oh, he's taking a personal day? Well, you better go check that out.
I'd rather not, sir, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, you are the messenger, so why don't you just go message?
I guess we can all agree that this scene should have ended a lot earlier. I'll leave you to deal with your problems. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you.
I didn't do anything.
Very, very much. Please don't report me.
Come on, wake up. It's time to wake. Oh, there you go. Come on now, it's time to wake up.
Hey, I'm taking a personal day.
Whoa, slow down. Someone's here to talk to you. You may have not noticed me, because I'm not in the light until just now, but the captain wants you to get back to work. None of this personal day stuff. You got me? I understand that you're going through a lot.
One cannot quantify how much.
Are we doing this? Are we airing out our dirty laundry right here and right now? Because, frankly, I'm just not in the mood for this.
And I'm not in the mood to get to work.
It's not up to you. This is an all hands on deck situation happening on the deck. Your cruise is over.
I assume you want me to get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to work from home. Oh, look, it's the dinner bell. You better go eat. Get your strength up so we can talk about this later.
You know that we never talk about this
Oh,
later.
sure we will. We'll all have a great chat about this. About how I'm lazy and you're...
Come on.
Oh, you're just running around the ship doing your job.
Whatever you say, I'll be back. You can count on it.
Oh, could you grab me some pizza? It's pizza day. I've been wanting to eat some.
Oh, of course, but it'll be cold. Hey, dude, we're still on for cards?
Of course.
Oh, man, that was awkward. That was kind of weird.
Hand me my decks over there.
Oh. Can't get it yourself. Okay, whatever. Here you go.
Don't sass me. I'm pre-scurvy. 1, 2, 3. Oh, you might be wondering why aren't these playing cards? Well, it's actually cold hard cash, and I'm going to bribe you. Do you understand?
Uh-huh.
Okay, now take this money and just make sure the crew stays out of my room the entire time of this trip, okay?
Which plague should I tell them that you have?
I don't want to say plague per se. Perhaps maybe like a really bad fever. Maybe non-contagious.
At least contagious to keep people out.
Maybe an intense fever of unspecified origins.
Hey guys, welcome back. Let's talk about some city council stuff. We're diving right in. We're talking about a little bit of this, a little bit of that. For the most part, the city of Missoula did not have a meeting on Monday, but they did have a lot to talk about in terms of your committee meetings and more. And so we're going to kick things off with the Climate Conservation and Parks, which they're doing a presentation on the Inflation Reduction Act, which at the beginning I was like, okay, it's a pretty short meeting. It's not that interesting, but it's actually probably one of the most important things that kind of actually goes over the Inflation Reduction Act and about all these green new initiatives that will be affecting a lot of towns like Missoula. So Carolyn Bean presented this information, talking about the biggest, being the biggest climate action initiative in terms of money at the highest level. So let's kick things off. So here's Caroline Bean talking a little bit more about this.
So it's a big jump forward. It's not all the way there, which I think is really important. So if this was the last bill that we ever passed on climate change, it would not be enough. But it is still a really momentous step forward, and it moves the needle a lot further. But I think this range is also really important too, of 31 to 44%. And you might think, well, how do you have such a big range of where we get? And a lot of it will be people like us in local governments and state governments and how well equipped we are to take advantage of this funding and be creative and thoughtful and work with our community members and business owners and homeowners and renters to implement this bill to the full vision it can achieve. Next slide.
Okay, so one of the big things about this with the implementation is that there's a lot of tax breaks and tax incentives moving forward with this. Good news, yes. Climate change solved? No. But the really real money is favored for green initiatives geared towards energy efficiency and removal of high carbon producing powers like gas and coal by creating electrification of buildings. So anyways, like if you have like a heat or water pump that like doesn't run on clean green energy, and let's say it's towards the end of its life, this Inflation Reduction Act actually allows you to have upwards of $4,000 to $5,000 per household in terms of being able to have tax break for just basic energy conservation in your house. So you invest in green energy in your home, you get a tax break. Only if the commercial building is reduced by 25 to 50%, that's when the commercial businesses, which is what it was originally geared towards, like that's the big part of this Inflation Reduction Act, should be like, hey, if you convert your building to more green energy, they can give you real like tens of thousands of dollars in tax breaks just by going green, and it would help cover some of the cost for going green, because it does cost money to actually go green, and so this is an incentive to actually encourage it as well. So Carolyn also talks about the home installation credit. So this is a big one for those of you at home who individually want to make your house more energy efficient. So here it is.
Credit. So that's $5,000 per home to developers that will build what the Department of Energy calls a zero energy ready home standard. And so this isn't necessarily a net zero home. It's a home that could be net zero with the addition of solar panels and things like that. So again, $5,000, it might not seem like a huge piece off the bottom line, but it really sends the message that this is the way we're going and can sometimes be just enough of an incentive to get it to pencil for a developer.
Yep, and there's just a lot of great sets moving forward as well. I mean, heck, even if you're replacing old equipment, energy efficiency kind of stuff, and you have two different things. You have the non-energy efficient one that's like $8,000, and then you get one that's like, oh, but it's like $15,000 or something like that. You would get that tax credit of $5,000 that move towards it. Sorry, I'm just kind of selling this in a way because this is a lot of this meeting where they were selling this in moving forward. But also there is the date in which it's going to be initiated, which is 2024. But that doesn't mean that you can't apply for this tax incentive as well moving forward. So it's never too early to think about this kind of stuff as low-income households. Let's see. Did I mess up? Yes, I did. Okay, so I'm gonna have to find this clip again. So as low-income households will work on the sliding scale, which could save upwards of 50% on energy efficient installations. This is a new Inflation Act that could benefit upwards of 1 million homes turning solar. However, these breaks and money will not be available until 2024, but be aware Missoula is working through the federal funding block grant, which is geared towards these kind of initiatives, because block grant is using building leverage on, I probably should look up the acronym because I always forget the concept of the block grant, which is the whole idea is like improving infrastructure through using federal grants to match funding to improve like sidewalks, streets, and roads and stuff. So they want to be able to utilize some of this federal money moving forward. So that's the money so far, and the state law from what I looked into when shopping for solar panels was, okay, so in terms of solar panels, installation, anything kind of like that, is roughly $10,000, in which you can get small loans, and I worked with a couple companies to see about that. I didn't actually get solar panels initiated. It's a whole thing with the HOA. I'm still working on that. So in terms of that, even before this Inflation Reduction Act even happened, the state of Montana already has laws in place that actually encourage the installation of solar panels, energy efficiency, which in terms of taxes, you can get about $500 in tax breaks every year for 10 years for this because of what happened beforehand. So I don't want to get into too much of this because this is the Inflation Reduction Act. They also mentioned another big one as well is electric vehicles. EV vehicles could get anywhere between $4,000 to $7,500 tax credit for purchase of electric vehicles, which means this only pertains to the brand new electric vehicle. So if you buy a used electric vehicle, this may not pertain to that. So that's a tax credit that can move towards people, encouraging people to buy electric cars. So Evora Green, who's also with the Evora Glenn, with the presentation, talks about the workarounds for buying EV cars. So, if you can't afford it, which, at this point is like nobody can really afford an electric car, she mentioned that this is what she said about owning an electric car.
Right? So if you're thinking of a family that's interested in buying an electric vehicle used, but they don't have tax burden to get the full benefit of the $4,000 tax credit, what they could do at the point of sale is transfer the value of that credit to the dealer, for instance, and then the dealer could take $4,000 off the cost of their vehicle right there at the point of sale. That's a really exciting way that this transferability provision can enable more people in our community to benefit from these incentives.
All right, so as you can see from the slide right here, I just kind of want to go over it a little bit. So personal EV vehicles, so you have different purchases and different things. New $7,500 credit. The used is a $4,000 credit for anywhere between $4,000 and $7,500. And then when you get into more commercial, like the city of Missoula is trying to go through low carbon emission future as well, commercial EV purchases, which include anywhere between $7,500 for most vehicles, for $40,000 for mobile machinery. So like, street sweepers, snow plows, and stuff like that would be able to get pretty big discounts in terms of those kind of things. But like I said, but energy is, it's like one of the big things. It's like one of the biggest arguments against, electric vehicles. It's like, oh, it's just going to be powered on gas and fossil fuels anyways. It's like, but you're making an impact regardless. So this is a big step moving forward, and the city just kind of did the presentation about how the Inflation Reduction Act will help with a green new future for the city of Missoula. So that's just what this particular meeting was about. I suggest you watch it in full to get more information about how you can use these tax breaks for your eventual energy efficient future. And even if you wanted to take like another mortgage to be able to invest in your home, a lot of times, solar panels are popular to the point in which you increase your property value just by installing them. So I'm not a huge proponent for one thing or another in terms of how people want to save money in energy efficiency, but there's a way for tax breaks for that moving forward. So this meeting was pretty informative for those looking to go green or have local support from local, state, and federal revenue. And this meeting is for you if you want to go energy efficient and just learn a little bit more information about this and how the Inflation Reduction Act will move forward with this, but also some of the other steps that they're being taken to ready for this inflation reduction as well. So hey, if you want to be on the ground floor, this is the time to do it. So Public Safety and Health in 2013. I don't have any videos for these next two meetings. I just want to go over what they were talking about. So 2013, prior to a Supreme Court decision on same-sex marriage, Council adopted a resolution to create a domestic partnership registry. And part of this was to make it easier for people to go online, be able to print their marriage certificate to get the benefits from work, rather than going all the way to the county court to actually get it from them directly. And so they want to make it a little easier for same-sex marriage to have the same kind of ease as heterosexual marriages to be able to get their marriage certificate. So anyways, that's kind of what's happening with the Public Safety and Health, Public Works and Mobility. And so they were talking a little bit about road, bridge safety and stuff like that. BARSA funds have been allocated to the City of Missoula for 2022 for the amount of $1.4 million. Staff recommends that the money should be directed toward Waterworks Hill Access Improvement Project, Mullen Road Reconstruction Project, West Side Area Mobility Project, Kent Central Greenway, Turner Warden Street Improvement Project, Burton Street Improvement Project, Eaton Sidewalks, Russell Street, Fairground Safety Improvement Project, Ivy Franklin Improvement Project, North 5th Street Improvement, and Maple Street Improvements that were not completed in 2022. So these are a lot of money that's coming from BARSA, which is Bridge, Road Safety, and Accountability Act, and this is for improving the roads and infrastructure for Missoula. So that's money going towards this. This is money from the federal government. Another thing that they talk about is where Russell and Third we'll get major updates through the Montana Department of Transportation, which include repaving streets to speed reduction technology to improve safety on Third and Russell intersection, which I gotta say it is pretty unsafe a lot of different times, especially for pedestrians trying to cross in those intersections. Because I almost hit someone who crossed illegally, even though you're the left turn is supposed to go first, but then they're allowed to go. So it's a whole thing. Anyways, the big thing that was happening, and this is a transition into the winter warming shelter, and this is a big contested item that happened this week, and a lot of people are up in arms against the closing of the authorized campsite outside the Walmart by Reserve Street. And so they talked about the upcoming winter shelter at Johnson Street and other programs through the collective Operation Shelter introduced by county and city 2 summers ago. Emily Armstrong with Operation Shelter talks about the goals for the future.
When we are evaluating programs and projects in Missoula, our goal really is to continue building this spectrum of options for Missoulians. We recognize that houselessness is not a static situation. It's constantly changing, it's complex, and it's not linear. And so while this visual looks really linear, I want to be clear that the experience of being unhoused is not. And this doesn't necessarily mean that someone is going to move from one to the next as they're outlined here. It instead means that we have options for folks in all of these different situations, as many as possible, because it is a really individualized experience.
And one of the big things, I want to end on the individual experience, because a lot of people, a lot of different things, and she spoke about many places that offer services from the Poverello Center to Johnson this winter, and the 2 outdoor designated campsites. And so far, Emergency Winter Shelter's goal is to avoid people freezing to death during the winter time, and about 135 people can live in that shelter during this time, and the POV can take the same amount, if not more. Johnson is more open to let anyone compared to the POV, which does have some rules regarding the dry center for folks and have the right to turn people away. ARPA funds, so the American Rescue Plan funds, were set aside for a lot of relief for the COVID pandemic, and money is going to be pretty much wrapped up by 2024. And so what Missoula is spending with these funds is upwards of $700,000 are going towards these homeless, houselessness initiatives. But be aware too that the spring in Missoula of 2023 will see major surplus in dwelling units, and will be good because those federal dollars will be unavailable by 2024. So spring 2023, a lot of those apartments, a lot of the housing complex and everything like that, there's going to be a lot of availability start going up like crazy. Just from what the Missoula Housing Authority presented on, a lot of different organizations, Homeward, and I've seen many presentations on Operation Shelter and those around it, so it's pretty successful, and neighbors in these neighborhoods have been more positive with the city of Missoula's approach than negative. And of course, most of the negativity had to do with security, otherwise known as Rogers International Security, which a change in security guards from Rogers International to Black Knight Security, along with the 5 others that bid for this contract. Also, they wanted to have a month-long extension for Rogers International on top of it as they transition out of October, November season, because it's going to be a big transition. Emily Armstrong addresses security, and this is what she had to say in terms of what they're doing with the new security model.
We've learned since the start of Operation Shelter a year ago. It's also very clear that our security needs have changed and are changing. We've learned a lot over the last year about what works and what doesn't work, and how security needs really differ across different shelter sites and different neighborhoods. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, just as nothing is in the world of houseless services. The different sites are unique, and so we have shifted our security model to be responsive to that. And this slide just kind of outlines the
Okay, so that was Emily Armstrong again talking a little bit more about security. And yeah, they're evolving, they're changing, and they had a contract for a year with Rogers International. And needless to say, the security had handled the first year were heavily armed personnel, and many neighbors didn't like having armed security wandering around their neighborhood near these shelters. Daniel Carlino was one of those opposing voices. Many other council members felt they had to honor their contracts up until this point. Emily responds to some of the concerns with the security in place, and this is what she had to do in terms of talking about the Black Knight security.
Security staff will visit sites regularly, making them able to quickly respond as needed if emergencies come up, while also decreasing the intensity of a constantly felt security presence. And with the transition away from the authorized camping site, this type of presence is just a better fit with our needs. Councilman Carlino brought some concerns about Black Knight to our attention, and I just want to note that we were previously aware of the concerns that he brought up and the situations he referenced, and have touched base with Black Knight to make sure we're on the same page.
All right, so a big part of this as well is the power of synergy also works out, and the city of Missoula already works with Black Knight Security in their operations at City Hall, and they're going to expand this with an already existing security by $130,000 allocated for this. However, the county will expand their security with Phoenix Security, which is based out of the county courthouse, and they also used to have a security presence here at the public library with Phoenix Security before they switched it over to more in-house security hires. Let's see, Supervisor for Black Knight Security, Mike Brady, talks about security and how he feels about working with them as well.
We started with Black Knight in a temporary status during the pandemic. We had closed down City Hall and then had police officers working downstairs when we had to reopen the courts. So then we brought in Black Knight on a temporary basis. At the time we brought them in, they were unarmed. and that was at our request. And then we had a new contract with them, and we did the redesign at the main door of City Hall and have a screening and a weapons check protocol that we put in place there after the 21 legislature and those changes. We have had no issues with them. We've had some issues with just communication about what's available in City Hall, what isn't provided in City Hall, and our ability to communicate that information back to the public.
All right, so for the most part, he was just talking a little bit more about that, and so far they spent a good amount of time talking about license of security and overuse of patrols that make people feel uncomfortable. It was a lot of reaffirming that the security persons there will be there to de-escalate and avoid calling Missoula Police Department if possible. The major changes that the security will not be present at the facility, and will be that, like they said, there will be a roving present and can be involved on demand. So the whole point of this is that the first year they had security. One of the big things is that the city of Missoula heard a lot of feedback from the citizens of Missoula. It's like, whoa, this is like a paramilitary group that's here. Can you scale it back a little bit? They didn't really try. It didn't feel like they even scaled anything back, because a lot of those complaints started as early as February, March. Just seeing those kind of things kind of evolve over the next couple of months and just kind of getting ignored, and then a lot of people kind of constantly bring it up to the point. And yeah, it was just kind of there was just a lot of talking at the city, and there's not much going back and forth. I just noticed that there wasn't much of that. But as we transition to Black Knight Security, maybe there might be a better way for communication. And I think Mike Brady, as the supervisor, was fairly confident that communication will be a little bit more transparent moving forward with this new security system. Another big topic was the continuance of the designated campsite, which was called the authorized campsite, and this is the one right by Walmart by the Clark Fork River. And during public comment, many people think this site should continue. Let's see here. Where was I? Oh, when did I have that one? Sorry about that. I'm just, I have to find my, there it is. Okay, so here's Winnie Lohoff, and she's kind of worked on these sites, worked with some of the clients there as well, and this is what she had to say about the importance of keeping the shelter active.
Missoula is seen as a model for other cities and towns in our state on how to end houselessness. Our continuum of care, and perhaps I'm a little biased because I'm part of it, is unparalleled. The resources this town has are incredible, and ACS, the authorized campsite, is one of these resources. I understand that the city is not prepared to be a provider. It is a very big job, but it's a job with some of the most supports. Missoula outreach workers, shelter staff, case managers, and more want ACS to succeed, and we want to help guide the city into being one of the better supporters. For example, I'm not trying to say that ACS is perfect. It definitely is not. There's definite ways that we can improve. But as you've heard from some of the camp residents, there are ways to improve. There are ways that are tangible and could happen very quickly. Up until now, I don't believe the city has heard from people with lived experience or residents of the camp, despite providers requesting. Providers have also wanted to assist the city, and this has not happened. For example, the Poverello was not approached until about 2 months ago in requesting how they run their shelters. We have ways we can improve, and they're tangible, and the supports are there for the city to be a provider.
All right, so that was one of the big concerns, was just being able to communicate and just have basic oversight on some of the operations that are currently happening. Think about it like this: if there was a solution to this problem, there would be no problem. So therefore, whatever the POB, the city, anyone, it's not enough. and reevaluating our system is more important than throwing ARPA money at something that may end when the money is gone. So think about that. We're spending a lot of money on this next winter season with security, Johnson Street, staff, a lot of people to be able to help them, but then there's potentially ways to be like, okay, so we have funding for this next year, but what about the next year? So it's interesting because this is going to be another year to be able to afford these kind of things. But yeah, it's insane, just mind you. And I remember that the before they had to hire more staffing and anything like that, the Johnson Street site, I believe it was costing like the city footed the bill about $50,000 of city funds for this, but then through the ARPA funds they were able to really expand it. But at the same time, it's also you're opening something that it's hard when it gets closed. So, however, now the potential closing of this outdoor site, and for reasons of it's the winter. And I think a lot of them are justifying to be like, hey, it's going to be really cold. This is an outdoor campsite. I don't think it's going to be adequate for this winter season. So we should just try to get these folks over to the bigger shelters in which a lot of folks have had a lot of these issues in terms of being able to be in so close quarters with over 100 people in like a small facility. And if you've ever seen some of the pictures of the Johnson Street shelter, they just have a couple, it kind of looks like gym mats that are on the ground that are spread out across the room as whatnot. So it's a bit much, and especially with people being able to have individual space, it's definitely a lot harder when you go to a lot of these shelters, the POV especially. So Kevin Hunt, who's been speaking at City Council for quite a while, he spoke about the closure of this site, and this is what he had to say.
If in fact you reduce the amount of legal shelter space in town, you aren't going to be able to enforce your no sleep, no lie ordinance, your no loitering ordinance for downtown. You're not going to be able to do it. The case is clear. It isn't what you have going on in your mind that controls whether that you'd be in violation of that decision. It's what is actually happening that would determine that. What's actually would be happening is that if you, on any night, if the police are moving people along, quote unquote, interfering with their liberty, up to and including citing them or arresting them in any way, and if at that particular moment there isn't a lawful place for that person, any of those individuals, to be housed on that particular day, you're in violation of Boise. All
right. So, yeah, there's just a lot of going stuff like that, and some city staff tried to table it, but with little support, and the motion moved forward to the consent agenda. Christian Jordan from City Council kind of reflected on just how disappointed she is with how the city moved forward with just straight up closing this site, which is slated for closure on November 15th.
I just wanted to say that I feel like we are absolutely disregarding the comments of the people who've taken time to come in today and tell us how what we do is affecting them directly. I take issue with the comment that I had plenty of time to look this over and had plenty of time to put my comments up. I had no idea this was coming to committee until last Friday when we got our agenda previously. It doesn't give enough time to organize meetings and have participation from people who this is going to directly affect. I think that when we talk about being people-centered and valuing the experiences, we just told them we're actually lying about that. We actually don't care as a city council whether or not the people with lived experience are getting the services they need, as has been made example today. It is frustrating and disheartening to me that we have one person, Emily, who is telling us we have to rush this through. We have more people saying we need to slow this down. I'm really frustrated. We are absolutely taking the decision away from people with lived experience. We're not going through a valid and robust discussion process, and I'm disappointed in actions today.
All right, so that was Christian Jordan talking a little bit more about that. Yeah, I mean, Monday's meeting is going to be a long one for sure, and this will be continued for next Friday's City Council report. So if you want to learn more information about this, you can go to ci.missoula.mt.us. It is a wonderful website where you can learn more and everything about what the city is doing, their agenda items, and more. But yeah, this meeting was very interesting. It was just like a lot of information just kind of came out last minute, and a lot of the folks who basically were living at these encampments were just like, oh, by the way, you're going to be kicked out in less than a month. So yeah, there you go. So it's definitely interesting to have people uprooted, especially in these sites, because the authorized campsite that they built there was geared towards having a place for people to go that wasn't underneath the Reserve Street bridge, essentially. And part of that was because when the Clark Fork River starts to flood, it starts going a little bit higher, and a lot of the sites in which they were already in the camp area would flood, and they'd kind of be stuck on an island. So I noticed that from a lot of those heavier snow and precipitation seasons that we've had. I think we have it it feels like every 5 years in Missoula. There's always like a lot of rain, a lot of precipitation, a lot of runoff from the mountains. So it's just, yeah, there's just a lot of information there. And then they moved them across the river in these authorized campsites. Be like, okay, so it's going a little bit better. They changed the rules again to limit the space in there. They had some butted heads with the security, which caused even more controversy. And then now as we transition to wintertime, they're being like, okay, it's like the city, in many ways, from what I interpret, is that they want to move all the folks that are at the campsite and just get rid of the campsite altogether, and basically make them go to the Johnson Streets or the POV or anything like that, in which they have to go from being more independent to being more restrictive with the Johnson Street thing. And I'm not saying that they are restricted more at the Johnson Street emergency winter shelter. I'm just also saying that it's going to be very tight there, especially with more than 100 people. And also it was determined that there's more than 600 homeless individuals in the city of Missoula during this presentation, and you can find out more information by going to the city's website. So yeah, I have a short video for you guys. This is Charles Finn, and a video produced by our very own Ron Scholl from Poets in Montana. So here's this.
Colors leaving Potomac. In the morning, 3 sandhill cranes, gray against a gray sky, and the shorn blonde hayfields below them. Black Angus cattle in the far field, and a red barn slouching against hills of tamarack lit like candles, incandescent, burning between stands of white pine, fir, and ponderosa, wet from last night's rain. In the ditch, cattails gone to seed, and a red fox hunting nose down along the barbed wire fence where spider webs hang. Gone the red-winged blackbirds, the yellow-headed blackbirds, the tiny mountain bluebirds, but still the magpies, yin-yang as always, and the red-tailed hawks, and the 2 great blue herons dressed as smoke signals spearfishing down by the pond. Turning off the dirt road, she reaches over and touches his cheek. We need the great mystery, she said, as equally as they need us. He places a hand on her knee. Out the window, a Rorschach of ravens, and the great master class of the river, all the colors of autumn moving on the green billboard of its surface.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so Poets in Montana is a ongoing program produced here at MCAT. I suggest you guys check it out. You got our poet laureate, Mark Gibbon, talking to many poets and many people who appreciate poetry in the state of Montana. So you guys can check that out. It's on our YouTube channel, MCAT TV Missoula. So let's jump right into some events that are happening in and around the city of Missoula. Join Five Valleys Special Olympics, which will host their 2nd annual Alex Braun Memorial Basketball Challenge. And this is going to be at Ronan Middle School in Ronan. It's starting at 8:30 this morning. And it's going to be happening pretty much all day. So also what's happening today is yoga for healthy aging. So Red Willow Learning Center, this is like continuing yoga with Harriet, is a 1.5 hour designed to practice yoga in a safe and encouraging environment. This physical posture are explored in a sequential manner and props are used to allow for everyone access. Expect meditation and breath work as part of each session. Red Willow, part of the Learning Center, is a great opportunity for a lot of people to pick up trade skills, health and wellness classes, just a lot of different variety of stuff. This is a continuing education. They do a lot of GED programs, and this is one of their many programs that they offer there as well. So Missoula Food Bank is opening at 10 a.m. this morning. They also have many hours throughout this week, Monday through Friday, to encourage people to have fresh and nutritious food for people of various economic statuses. They don't care where you come from, but they allow anyone to be there to pick up some food on the cheap. So, Tiny Tales and Story Time at the Missoula Public Library every Friday, Saturday at 10:30 a.m. It is a wonderful resource for kids to pick up reading, enjoy a sense of community, and it's a great opportunity here at the Public Library, along with Yarns and Watercolor, which are geared towards adults, which are 12 noon. It's going to be on the 4th floor of the library. It's a great way to watercolor. Yarns starts at noon. It's every Friday at noon. So Lego Club, also this afternoon at 2:30 p.m. It is a great opportunity for, hey, it's just hang out and play with Legos. It's 2:30 to 5 o'clock here at the Public Library on the 2nd floor. So those are most of your 2nd floor stuff. As we dive in, we got trivia on a Friday, which is kind of weird, but Montgomery Distillery is even weirder for their trivia night at 4 p.m. tonight. And also, the Missoula Makers Market is happening from 5 to 8 p.m. This is a thoughtfully crafted market of local handmade artists hosted in the summer and winter. This market seeks to showcase existing and emerging talent in the Missoula area in order to create visibility around makers and handmade products. So this is happening on 420 North Higgins, Suite B, so basically Pine Street. So you can't miss it. It's going to be downtown tonight from 5 to 8. Non-Common is going to be at Von Common Studios, presents its annual fundraiser, Non-Common, a collaborative art and performance showcase at Squish, featuring local and regional artists. Non-Common, meaning distinct and separate from one another, embodies the show's non-theme with the intent of showing off the diverse array of Montana area artists of every discipline and expression. And this is going to be on 100 North Johnson, number 9. Live music, John Floridas, Highlander Beer, Worldwide Cinema, Special Reimagining Death installment at the Missoula Public Library. October selection is a special screening and a post-film discussion of the movie Titane from France. It's rated R. Professor Michael Schroll will moderate the discussion. A woman with a titanium plate fitted in her head and murderous intent on her mind embark on a bizarre journey of identity and unconditional love when she's forced to go on the run. And then Travis Yost is going to be at Ten Spoon Winery tonight at 6:30 p.m. Zootown Arts Community Center is doing a miscast production, presents I Am Acquainted with the Night. I'm Acquainted with the Night. They're doing also a Saturday show. This is 7 p.m. Friday, Saturday. Ruth refuses to think of herself as a sacred old woman, even if her son Michael and his husband Kelly want her to leave her familiar, well-loved apartment for an assisted living facility. So this is local playwright Laramie Dean. This play has adult themes and is not suited for children. The Roxy is hosting the Montana Film Festival feature film, The Unknown Country. A grieving woman, Lily Gladstone, embarks on an unexpected road trip from the Midwest towards the Texas-Mexico border as she grapples with the pain of her recent loss and seeks to understand her place in the world. Lily Gladstone will also be in attendance with the director, Marissa Maltz. We'll be doing the screening tonight at 7 p.m. So you get a meet and greet with some actors and some directors and all that stuff. UM Big Band, Art of the Dance, University of Montana is hosting a big band performance through the history of jazz with a tribute to dance with special guest Jeff Troxel, guitar, Adam Collins, cello, with the East Helena High School Jazz Band. Also live music at the Old Post is Larry Hirschberg. Latino Outdoors Spooky Night Hike is going to be at Sunlight Trail starting at 8 p.m. This is a 2.3-mile loop near Missoula, Montana, generally considered an easy route. It takes an average of 1 hour and 3 minutes to complete. They could provide headlights, and so they want you to RSVP, and you can RSVP on the MissoulaEvents.net website. Also, the Quantum Cowboys is going to be at the Roxy for the 1870s Southern Arizona to find an elusive frontier musician. This complex quantum time theory is blended with philosophical musings about art as the way we understand our history and memories, with gunfights, horses, dance halls, cacti and saloons. So that's all happening Friday. I haven't even touched Saturday, and I'm touching Saturday right now. Saturday markets and such are happening from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. here in the Missoula area, downtown Missoula. Carousel, Red X's, and also Pine Street, where they do the People's Market, is a great way for people to enjoy the farmers market as we transition into the winter. And this will go on until late October. And then we'll have winter markets, which are usually at the Southgate Mall or various other locations. Even Orchard Homes has markets during the winter at some point. Kimpo is also happening at the Community Barns and the Garden City Harvest. Kimpo is known for presenting profound concepts in accessibility ways. Buddhism, so part of this is practicing Buddhists, and they're talking about a retreat which is suitable for those who are already practicing Buddhist or for those who are interested in being on the walk of the Buddhist path to enlightenment. Ken Rinpoche completed with the study of all Indian Buddhist philosophy, traditions, and the Nyingma School of Tibetan Buddhism under the numerous great teachers. He also completed 9 years of rigorous training and served in the Namdroli Monastery for several years. So you got to enjoy that meet and greet, learn a little bit about Buddhism. Starting at the Garden City Harvest at 9:30 on Saturday. Apple cider pressing at the Mud Tool Library. So apple cider pressing is all the rage. It's going to be happening at the Missoula Public Library with the Mud Tool Library. It's going to be in the demonstration kitchen here on the 3rd floor, and you can join for apple cider pressing demonstration. It's freshly pressed cider and learn how you can press your own apples. Tech Connect, Missoula Public Library at 11 a.m. in the Ellington Conference Room. This helps people with technology. So if you have if you're technically illiterate or have problems with using technology or your phone or anything like that, Missoula Public Library has set aside time for additional hands-on help for folks every Saturday at 11 till about noon for people learning technology and getting the right tools that they need to quit asking me for help. Halloween Treat Tote Workshop. So this is going to be at AR Workshop in Missoula, which is 128A West Alder Street. It's Halloween Treat Tote Workshop. So you can make your own bags. Workshop hosts a drop-in family-friendly workshop. Choose from several designs and do-it-yourself Halloween Treat Tote. Pre-register, and the cost is $15. And it's a kind of like design or stop in from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And this is going to be at AR Workshop in Missoula, which is at 128 West Alder Street. So Saturday drop-ins for kids, 8 to 14. MCAT does a Saturday drop-in for the young kids. It is stop animation with Legos, various different items. They're encouraged to bring their own toys, make inanimate objects come to life in this weekly drop-in. Fall Family Fest 2022. Fort Missoula Regional Park is doing Fall Family Festival 2022, Old Fashioned Harvest Festival for all ages, hay rides, music, more apple pressing. For Missoula Regional Park, it's from 1 to 5 p.m. And Dan DeBacke is going to be at Imagination Brewing Company, great musician. Also, Highlander Beer is hosting Jordan Smith. Ten Spoon Winery is hosting the Missoula Jazz Collective. Jacob Roundtree will be at Draftworks Brewing Company. These are all around 6 o'clock. So the Kitchen Tesseract Garbanzo is going to be at the Squish at 6:30 p.m. Montana Theater is doing Cabaret, and this timely production captures the decadence of the pre-war Berlin. And then they'll have matinees on Sundays. It's going to go on for 2 weeks. Angels and Demon is doing an adults-only glacier ice rink on Saturday night at 8 p.m. It's $7. Skate rentals are $3. Advance reservation or suggestions, as the event is limited to 150 skaters. And so you can learn for more information by going to glacierIcerink.com. Solid Snake Karaoke at Westside Lanes. Union Club is hosting Russ Nassett and the Revelators, and Badlander is doing DJ Chris Moon. So those are some of the events that are happening in and around the city of Missoula. I am done. So for Wake Up Missoula, I'm Scott Ramp. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend.